What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. BobbyFi back here with my man, Eric Sheetshaber. We just did a DraftKings slate breakdown, and we are going to do a Fanduel lineup build, going position by position, sort of talking about the different plays we like at each position, and trying to help you guys out as we navigate through this interesting, fun Friday slate. Sheets, what are your thoughts on Fanduel versus DK first off the bat?
Yeah, so I'm actually getting a similar – I don't say build because I really haven't built yet. I'm just kind of like finding plays. I'm getting kind of a similar type of guys. I guess there are some exceptions, I would say, and we'll get to those. But there are some pretty stark differences. But for the most part, I'm getting the usual type of guys. But the ownerships are pretty funny. But you know what? They're funny on DraftKings too. I think probably the best thing that we can do is just kind of just start going through so I can show you what I mean.
We could start. There's a couple plays that I think are a little more automatic-y.
That's interesting because I can't find any, so I'm excited for you.
I feel like Rubio is a guy you want in every format.
Really?
I think Rubio at 5.7 is hilarious. He's going to be the chalk for good reason, in my opinion. So I love Rubio, and I also think Dedmon at 3,900. You sort of limit a little bit of that worry. As long as he's in the starting lineup, I think you're good. So I feel like those are pretty strong differences between the two sites. And then another guy who two other guys I really like. We'll get to position for that position. But I feel like you could, if I was building a cashy type of lineup, I would play Bogdanovich and Jaylen Brown. Those guys make a lot of sense to me at their prices. Jaylen Brown 6'2", Bogdanovich at 4.6. I already mentioned that I like him tonight, and I just feel very good about all those guys. I also prefer Monty Morris here versus on DK versus on here versus DK. But I don't think that he's by any means a must. There's a lot of good plays at point guard, so I actually think that I'll probably be avoiding him.
Yeah, it's funny. I find that we'll get there, but I find at center there are different options than
there are
than Dedmon.
About 3.9 for a guy who could put up 30 plus.
Yeah, I understand that too.
yeah. But it is going to be chalk, so and it's interesting to maybe think some other ways. Like we'll get to center obviously, but like there are different plays at different levels at center that you could have that could crush him, Dedmon. So like some of the 5K guys I could see blowing up and beating Dedmon, and just differentiating your build by that a little bit might be enough. So let's start with point guard. I mentioned that the automatic first play that I made on FanDuel was to put Ricky Rubio in, sort of regardless of anything. I just think that he's way too cheap. The matchup is too good. I liked his upside even on DK. How could I not like him at 5,700 here on FanDuel? The chalk would be the only answer why, but I love Rubio. He's number one for me. Tell me about your guys and your list. And
so for me, again, I do it both ways. I want to rank the guys I like, and then kind of compare them to ownership. I agree with you in that Rubio is my favorite point guard in and of itself. I think he is the best value. I agree with what you said that his just his price here is just way too cheap, and the projections reflect that as well. And so I do actually feel as though he is the best play. At 35+% ownership, I'm probably going to try to get away from it if I can. Mm-hmm. But as far as a play goes, I definitely agree that he's quote kind of the best play. Now, with respect to ownership, there are two things I want to kind of suggest. One is that if he's in fact between 10 and 15% ownership, I really like Derrick Rose. He's actually my second favorite point guard. So if in fact my second favorite point guard is going to be maybe the 10th highest owned point guard, for me, that's kind of what kind of leads me to making these decisions. So Derrick Rose would be the next guy I would kind of look at. And the other two, one of them is going to be really, I guess, kind of chalky. The other one's not going to be that chalky. One is De'Aaron Fox, who's going to be somewhat chalky. But the other one, and this is going to cause build problems and cause issues, but a 5% owned Russell Westbrook would be the next thing I would consider at the point guard position. I think that he projects to be just as good of a value as some of these other guys. and at 5% ownership, he's it's kind of tough to resist. Now the problem is that Harden looks like such a tremendous play at shooting guard that you kind of want him, and to play Westbrook and Harden in the same lineup is probably not optimal. But just on a position by position basis, I think that Westbrook would be the next thing I would go. And aside from that, you could then you're in the cheapie land. You're in between. You're choosing between Aaron Holiday and TJ McConnell. On FanDuel, I don't think it's a choice. I think that you have to pick Holiday. He's just cheaper than McConnell. And so I think he's there. And then the only other guy I'll bring up, and maybe you'll bring him up, is probably my next guy would be Kemba Walker. So what else do you have at point guard?
So my initial build, second guy I plugged in right away was Kemba Walker. I love Kemba at 7-2. I cannot believe these ownership projections can be right. And I know people don't like to play guys because they'll say, oh, well, you lose the 3-point bonus on you don't have that 3-point bonus on FanDuel, so a guy like Walker is not as good of a play. And there's some truth to it, sort of like the running, versus the PPR versus non-PPR of DK and FanDuel. But I don't think that you want to just base everything on that, because this guy can put up 50 FanDuel points, no problem. It's actually the one place you beat Orlando. I also just think that, without Tatum in there, he's the one who sees the biggest usage upgrade of any player on the Celtics by far. I think he's at 33% or something, which he's always actually an oddly low usage guy. People think he's high usage, but even when he played in Charlotte, he was never like one of the highest usage guys. It's kind of strange. But very effective, very efficient in his usage. They should need to rely on him more. It's a competitive game on the road in Orlando. I think that he's a really strong play. I really like Aaron Holiday as a speculative play, and I'm hoping that maybe we don't have a starting lineup when lock happens, and I'll take that shot on him at much lower ownership than if he's announced as the starter versus TJ. Because I think that if it's not announced, that people will probably assume it's him, but I just don't see people end up going to it that much, because I think this is the strongest position on the board, personally. I think you can make arguments for guys like Chris Paul. De'Aaron Fox makes a lot of sense. Derrick Rose, as you said, I'm not going to get to him, but I certainly understand the argument. The only reason I'm not getting to Rose is I want more upside from my guys a little bit in this matchup. Yep. And that's a little bit why I don't want to play Monty Morris. I want the guys who can smash, and I just feel like Rose, even if he gets like that 38, 40, which is good, like I feel like Kemba can go out there at 300 more and get you 55, where I don't see that happening so much with Rose. Now, if this game was in Memphis, and I could throw a little narrative about Derrick Rose going to college in Memphis, and maybe I could have a little bump there. Also, Memphis plays faster at home. Sort of half joking, but that would be a different story. I also think Ja Morant is a terrific low-owned option. If you want to play Rose and Morant, I think that's actually a really good way to go if you want to get really different with the point guard spot. Point guard will be where I rotate most of my players today, because I like all of these guys. I like Shabazz Napier over here at 4.9. As much as I can't see how he stays on the floor defensively against these Rockets, it's hard for me to see how he won't have some opportunities offensively in what should be a track meet, a game that I'm going to tell everyone right now, bet the over on that Houston-Minnesota spot sit game. It's definitely going to hit, I'm telling you. So, yeah, those are the guys. And then if you just want the basic, direct, pure pivot off of the chalky Rubio, it would be Peyton. The problem is I just hate this matchup for Peyton, even though he has all the, he's probably going to get to his 30 fantasy points just because of the usage and no Barrett and all that. But I just think there's too many good plays at this position on this slate. And I think I hit all of them. The only one, actually, only three more. This is the problem. Because these guys are all interesting at really low ownership. Trae Young is going to be too low owned at 9.6. I agree with your Westbrook call. But I also think Trae Young at 9.6 is kind of interesting and also going to be low owned. Kyle Lowry, probably not the right site for it, but 7.1 is pretty cheap. And I'm telling you, Lonzo is going to be better as Zion continues to be more part of the team. So just want to mention those guys, but the only one I may end up using of those three actually on tonight's slate and on FanDuel is probably Trae Young. I also think there's a way you could play this slate and you can play Westbrook and Harden on FanDuel and still win tournaments. You probably would want to run it back with a cat and what you can do, but well, maybe you can't do that one, but or at least like play Napier, play somebody else in there just to try to, because somebody's going to have to keep it close for those guys both to go so far off. But this is definitely the type of matchup where I think they could both put up the 60 plus whatever plus and be the highest scoring players in the slate, even on the same side of it.
One of the things that again, always just kind of burned me was when I would watch content and people would say, well, somebody would ask a question and they would say, well, all slates are different. It just depends. And I'm like, well, there should be certain guidelines. I mean, that apply to every slate. But the reason I bring that up is because, sometimes when we go through a position, there's just a couple of guys that we touch on. And there are other times where unfortunately, everybody is kind of close. So we do have to go through. So I don't want you guys to think that we're just kind of just blasting through, like, oh, you like this point guard, like all these points. Just happens to be on this particular slate with this particular group of point guards that it's just that close that you can make case for all of them. So we're not making cases just for the sake of bringing up everybody's names. It's because on this particular slate, this particular group of point guards, that's just necessary. That's all.
Yeah, I will say, though, just to make it clear for my point of view, I will be heavier on Rubio and Kemba than I will on pretty much anyone else, with the potential exception of maybe jumping in on Westbrook, depending on how the rest of my builds go.
All right, so let's move on to shooting guard, where for me, this is what makes it difficult for me to play Westbrook, is that I really cannot get away from Harden here at all. I think that he's going to be chalky. I think he's going to be 30% plus, and I just whether it's because of the strength of the position or just the raw points that you have to make up if you don't take him at this position. I just think it's going to be very difficult to get away from him. So he's going to be someone I'm 100% going to be putting in my however many lives I have, which isn't going to be that many tonight. He's definitely just going to be in there. And then, so what you can do, though, is you can go for your second position there, if that's the way you want to look at it. You can find some kind of lower-owned guys because I think there's a real kind of glut underneath Harden that you can make cases for a decent amount of people. So I'm gonna throw a couple out there. You can go over some others, like the more popular guys or whatever, just to remind everybody who they are. But one guy that we talked about the DraftKings build, which if you need to fit him in, Jeremy Lamb could be again kind of a really low-owned guy to put in the shooting guard position. Again, he's not going to be as great as some of these others. As a matter of fact, I probably think that probably Bogdan is probably a better play than Lamb, but at Lamb with lower ownership, I mean, maybe you could try him. Mm-hmm. The other guy who, again, if you're not still too hurt from playing him at 75% last time, you could try Lou Williams again. Again, this is kind of asking for it because Kawhi is back, but I'm just saying that, he is projected to be very similar to some of these other dudes, and at less than 10%, he is a way to reduce your ownership at the position. So those would be the kind of my off-the-board type, not even off-the-board, but my lower-owned guys, and alongside of Harden, which admittedly is chalk, but I just can't get away from it.
So I accidentally was calling up my other screen. That's why I was so surprised when you said Lou Williams. But, yeah, I do think Lou Williams at 6.1 is definitely in play. I think it's, for me, the first plugs are Harden and Bogdanovich just jump out to me. I have a hard time justifying not playing Harden with the matchup and price and position scarcity compared to some of the other positions. One guy who I really like as a pivot, and not even a pivot, just a really low-owned guy, is Marcus Smart. He's 5.8 over here. I think that, I'm going to mention some of these Boston guys. Marcus Smart was going to blow up the other night, and without Tatum, it's mostly going to help, I feel like, Walker and Brown, but I think that Marcus Smart at no ownership is an interesting play at 5.8, just literally no ownership. And obviously we've seen the upside of him, as much as recently as last week. I also think that Schroeder is much more in play over here, but I actually like Zach LaVine quite a bit, as well as D'Angelo Russell, because I want to run it back with some of Indy. So I'll mix those guys in, but for me, the main two I'll have, and I'll do some builds where I don't have Harden, and I play Westbrook, at point guard, but mostly I'll play them together, or I'll play Harden with Bogdanovich or Bogdanovich with one of those other guys I mentioned. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the two guys that we play at low ownership are going to be kind of chalky tonight, both LaVine and Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins 30%, just to me, I'm just not doing it. But as Bobby mentioned, the DraftKings thing, he does play well against Houston, and
has been playing better. There's just no way I'm playing Chalk Harden at 37% and Chalk Wiggins. It's just not happening for me.
Yeah.
The one, and I was gonna two guys I was gonna mention were the actual two guys you mentioned, like Schroeder at like 0%. That Atlanta matchup is really, really good, and the Russell, like you said,
revenge too.
Yeah, Russell, like you said, when we went over DraftKings, Brogdon being out is a real help for D'Angelo Russell on the offensive side. So again, you want a lower owned guy at 6%, you could try him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm with you. I mean, for the most part, I'm mentioning pretty chalky plays in most of my positions, but that's where I'm going to have to pivot. And those lower owned guys I mentioned, while I may not be giving you a full-on priority of which ones I'm picking, I'm leaning to heavy on my core with Harden and Bogdanovich. I'm leaning heavy on my core with Rubio and Kemba. Kemba's actually going to be lower owned than so he sort of counts. But mixing in those other guys we mentioned is going to be what matters, because we're going to have to get away from some of the chalk.
Yeah. Okay, so we can go ahead to small forward, and two guys that I didn't expect to be this chalky, but they are, and I guess I could see why, because the price over here is Will Barton. I mean, he looks to be a really good play at 6,200. I'm at New Orleans. I mean, at that price, so I can see why he's getting ownership. I don't know if I would rate him maybe he would. I don't know, the best small forward. I don't know about that, but Siakam's getting ownership also, and he looks to be like okay. But if I'm going to go chalk, my favorite guy is just going to be Jaylen Brown. I mean, he's to me the surest of them all, with with Tatum out, and so for me, Jaylen Brown. If I was going to go chalky, I would go with him. One bit of ownership I don't quite get is why you don't have an equal amount of ownership on Hayward for some reason. I have to think that's going to get a little bit more.
Equal amount of ownership for who did you say?
Gordon Hayward. I couldn't imagine why he wouldn't be similarly as popular as Jaylen Brown would be. I'm just kind of presuming that's going to just condense a little bit. But look, if Hayward is whatever that much lower owned than Jaylen Brown, it's fine by me. I'll take it. And one other guy I'll just kind of throw in is that you like to play. Well, I say you like to play, but you play more than I do. But in this matchup, at this ownership, considering where he falls in my list of small forwards, I'll take a shot with Danilo Gallinari against Atlanta in the spot. So for me, if I wanted to go chalky, I would go Jaylen Brown. If Hayward in fact lower owned, I would rather take Jordan Hayward, and then maybe take a shot with Gallinari.
I really like the Gallinari idea. I really like Siakam, but my priority guys are, again, these are chalky, and again I'll tell you the pivots too. But Jaylen Brown and Will Barton are my 1 and 2, 1 and 1A I should say. I do love Will Barton in this matchup at 6.2, even with Gary Harris coming back. It's not a high usage guy that's going to affect him much. I like this spot a lot for him. This just seems like too cheap a price. But I also loved him the other day, and he killed me against Houston. But things happen. I think Hayward is a good pivot, and I think he is going to be in play. I actually think he'll probably have similar ownership to Jaylen Brown over here. I don't think it's going to be that much different. But I think it'll be a little bit higher for Jaylen. DeAndre Hunter is 3.8. If you wanted to get crazy,
I didn't even notice him.
Yeah, it's just a mention of a very low owned guy that certainly, like, this is how I won a tournament earlier this year. Was I played Hunter and Garland, I think it was, at my point guard and my small forward. Basically, I think they were both like the minimum-ish. And they both put up like 35 in those games, which was great. And I'm not saying they're going to do that every night, but when that happens and you have unowned guys like that and you can spend up on all the other guys elsewhere, you could see how playing like Westbrook and Harden together, even if maybe you're capping your ceiling, you can still win tournaments that way because you're so far off the board with those other spots and you got so much point per dollar. Like, it's not that he's going to score 30 all that often, but actually, you know what? He probably will 1 out of every 3.5 to 4 games, let's say here, maybe 4. So that one time that happens and you have him at 5% and no one else really stands out in the same price range as being a good play on FanDuel. I just think it's a really interesting way to go because you have a very differentiating build. So I'm going to get me some DeAndre Hunter just as like a funny little off the board play. And I really like the call of playing Gallinari. I just think that you're getting some safety and upside, and I think you're just going to have lower ownership than you will on the other two guys at his exact price point. So those guys are the other ones for me. And then if you want to play the Houston game, which I'm going to be doing, I think you can play Jarrett Culver at 5,200 at no ownership.
Are you a I mean, you again, this is a guy you know better than I do, but only because I have Russell in my lineup, I'm thinking about this. Do you like TJ Warren at all tonight?
So I actually like every one of the Indiana players against Golden State. TJ Warren is the least interested one. Okay. Well, only because Holiday's cheap and Sabonis is going to smash, and Jeremy Lamb is so cheap. But I do think TJ Warren is definitely a fine play. Just I'm not like crazy about it, but I think he's a good play because everybody against that Golden State team should be in a good spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Andre Drummond now is questionable, by the way. So be ready for the Detroit news to break. The good news is we'll cover it at the very end of the show, but like it's we all know what the routine is.
So he has a different injury designation this time.
It's mouth.
He was GTD lips, and now he's GTD mouth. So maybe I have to think it's the same injury. That's just me though.
That's hilarious.
You think it's actually just GTD trade?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
GTD Andre Drummond just got traded.
Right. I mean,
I don't know, man. I honestly can't imagine a team trying.
How does this guy not play with a lacerated mouth? The guy's freaking guys.
Don't forget they benched him in a game too, where he was going off, like because he wasn't trying hard on defense. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. It's we'll get to what that means at the end, and
hopefully you'll be able to tell me.
It'll come up on our next position, so we'll be fine with that. Anybody
else?
Right,
so here's my problem. So at power forward, Kawhi just
we missed one guy. We missed one guy.
Go ahead.
That's just again. We told
before
playing, but Kelly Oubre is a better play over here than I think he is on FanDuel.
Than DraftKings.
Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah, and I like him on DraftKings just because I like to kind of stack that game on DraftKings, and he definitely rates to be a better value on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Okay, so power forward. My issue is it's an issue. It just is what it is. Is that I actually have Kawhi as kind of a standout here on FanDuel. And I don't have anybody to run it back with or anything like that. I'm just saying that he just rates to be kind of a standout. I'm just presuming, I didn't even look, but I'm presuming I was about to say he's probably the most popular guy on the slate, but that in the position, but apparently that's not the case. I don't know exactly why that is, but apparently Bam and Bielitsa are just getting all this ownership and these other guys too. I don't know exactly what that is, but Kawhi is my best power forward. And then after that, it's kind of a war for me. The next thing I would do is if you want to continue to pay up or whatever is go with someone you just mentioned, Sabonis against Golden State. And then it's just kind of all over the place. Like I came up with, I don't know if I can do this, but even with Adams playing, Nerlens Noel at 4,400 at power forward as value. And
whoa, where did you get to Nerlens Noel?
I don't know.
You can't do that. I don't think without.
I don't know, and I certainly can't put both these guys together. But and then you're down to guys like Daniel Tice with Cantor out. You could try that. And
so we're on different
positions. Kind of ugly for me, if you want to know the truth. I mean,
we're on different pages with the exception of Kawhi. I agree with the Kawhi part. What else do you do here? I don't have an especially high amount of love for Bam, but I certainly get it. Like the price is reasonable. Nobody loves this position. I like Sabonis quite a bit. I don't understand why people wouldn't play him here. It seems like a very cash-like play at 8,400. I feel similar about Sabonis that I do about Kawhi at 9,800, but just a different price range. That's really the truth. I feel like they hit their number there plenty of the time, and you're talking 45 to 55 with upside for him, and then 55 to 65 with upside for Kawhi. So it's just a matter of like which one you prefer. Like, is Sabonis really going to go into Golden State without Brogdon tonight and not just destroy that front line? Is he not going to have like 20 rebounds or 50? And if he's not, there's a great pivot at center we'll get into in a minute. But the plays are about to become very obvious if Drummond is out. So in that case, we play Christian Wood at 5K even a little bit. But more, we play Oh, actually, over here, Thon Maker's a center. So it actually is going to be interesting to see what happens with Detroit. We'll get back to that one, but I think Jeremy Grant is one of the best plays on the slate.
Wow, that's a great one.
No one's going to play him over here, which is really odd because we've got him written up, I see him over here like he's a cash game play, and his projection is perfect. He is just not going to have the ownership. Everybody wants to play Bielitsa and Favors. I think that's going to change as the day goes on. I actually don't mind Favors here because I think they're going to have to play multiple bigs with the Pelicans, in the Pelicans case against Denver. But I like Jeremy Grant, and I think Jeremy Grant at 5,200 has given me no reason not to play him. And then I like the Boston guys, so I'm looking for a little run back. And as gross as he is, and he just keeps 5Xing, he can 6X, he can 6 or 7X this price. Aaron Gordon, 5,600. That's pretty much. I'm not going to play the wild card Draymond Green and then hear that he's scratched, but obviously 55 is the thing, but I really like that. I like the unused power forwards, the Gordons, the Grants, sort of staying in that price range. And then I do like Kawhi quite a bit. I think that he makes a lot of sense over here, more than I think on DK.
Zion Williamson's 5,500. I'm not doing it.
Nope. But
all right.
But wait, give it a week though. Maybe in a week we will.
Well, in a week you won't get him at 5,500.
I know. Oh, one weird guy to point out. So we should speculate with things on FanDuel, even on these big slates. And I'm pointing this one out because this could be a speculation that 10X's. So let's just say for some reason Draymond Green sits, or like two of the Golden State guys sit. We don't know. This is what they do. Probably not. It's a Friday night at home. I think it's a nationally televised game. So probably this doesn't happen, but there's routes anyway this guy could get there. Eric Pascal at 4K, if for any reason Draymond were to sit, I mean, he played his last two games without Draymond in there. He put up 43 and 37 fantasy points, and he's 4K. Let's give, and even with Draymond back, he put up 20 in 26 minutes in a blowout. So I think Pascal is a really creative off the board play.
I had Marquise Chris kind of pulled up.
I think Pascal's where you want to go.
I agree with that.
I'm getting chills a little bit with that Pascal thing. That's one of those that if something works out, it's just I wish the game wasn't on national TV because I feel like they're more likely to let Draymond and run as many guys out there as they can.
I'll tell you something else, by the way. This was over the weekend. They announced Draymond out, and a lot of these Golden State guys that became really, really good plays were ignored because it was a Saturday night and nobody kind of just noticed and they didn't swap to them. Even on DraftKings, I think that tonight, if they rule Draymond out or anything like that, I think you could get over and late swap to Pascal and no one will even notice.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that, but Pascal's 5,300 over there.
Is he? I didn't even know what he was.
Yeah, he's 4K over here, which is it's just sweet. Like it's just the upside for, yes, things have to go. But the weird part is he can get 30 in games that Draymond's plays. So it's not like it's that bad of a play anyway.
Okay. So at center, for me, it's easy. I know you have a kind of a 1% pivot, which I'll let you talk about. But for me, it's easy that there are three different price ranges you could try. And unfortunately, I'm liking too many guys that I'm going to have to pay for in other spots to do what I probably want to do at center. What I would want to do is fade Dedmon and go all the way up to 4% owned Karl Anthony Towns. But I don't think I'm going to be able to get away with it just because I'm going to want Harden or Westbrook probably. I'm going to they're just guys I'm going to want to pay for. Kawhi, I have to fade all those guys just to get up to Towns. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but that would be one way I would love to be able to do. The other thing, like I said, is you could pay down for Dwayne Dedmon, who, if he's starting, is kind of a lock at 3,900, regardless of ownership, I guess. I guess the good news is, I was going to say it's a late game. Maybe they won't announce he's starting till later, but it's not even a late game. So Dedmon, if you want to pay all the way down, you can go to him. Or if you want to go completely in the middle, you could go with Steven Adams at 5,700. So I think that for me, there are really just three centers that I would play. And I'll let you talk about the other guys that I know you're going to talk about.
So I'm leaning towards the Dedmon play over here, assuming he's starting. And my pivot initially was, to go to Towns. I like that. I like playing Towns over here quite a bit, actually. I really think this ownership on him is just too low. And I hate the matchup for him, but I think he can destroy in any matchup. And I don't know. I think this is a good spot to take a shot on Towns. The guys who I think you can throw into this mix is, again, I'm sort of attacking this Golden State game. Look, Miles Turner, it's just the upside at 5K in a matchup against a team that can get a lot of blocks against them. I mean, it's probably not going to go there. You're looking for this as a weird little pivot up from Dedmon. So let's say Dedmon even plays and puts up his 25 tonight, and sure, that's fine. But Turner puts up 35. That's an extremely likely outcome in this really, really solid matchup, and you just have no ownership. So I sort of like it from an ownership perspective. But it's not like I could make the same case for Mitchell Robinson, except for the minutes won't be as secure as they will be for Turner. The other guy who I really like, there's two other guys who are in play for me, and I'm debating which ones I want to go with. I really like Vucevic on trying to take the other side of that Boston game as another spend up. You know, even if Dedmon gets 25, Vucevic could put up 50 at this price, and I think I could be okay elsewhere. And then Capella, I think, also has enough upside, although he's a little bit pricey to be in play. But I'm not going to touch Steven Adams, even though I get it. It's just not the route that I'm going tonight.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at this listed questionable in his ankle, whatever. I think I'm going to probably play Noel on FanDuel.
Okay, so you're going to play Noel before, if we don't know?
Yeah.
Or if we know, what if we know Adams is playing?
Then I probably won't do it.
I just feel like it's I guess it depends on what happens with Detroit, because then it opens up Wood, and then, we got to mention at center. Well, let's go to Detroit actually for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that that's going to be the thing, which is weird that the point, not only is the total jumping, that Detroit's becoming an increasingly larger favorite, which is odd. But let's see.
He's playing, right? I mean,
if they announce it this late, they announce it late, and also he missed the last game.
Downgraded to questionable. Let's see what this says here.
That's what it is.
As he continues to get treatment, it seems his face has gotten worse.
I mean, okay, so we have to talk about the guys.
All right, so it's an early game, right?
Back to power forward, though. Markieff Morris immediately becomes a very strong play at 4.3.
Right.
I think that's actually where you go most comfortably. Christian Wood, also a strong play at 5K. And then it's, do we even not have him in the player pool?
Who?
Why isn't Thon Maker? Is he out?
Good question.
This is what it comes to this time of the year. Thon Maker questions. But I mean, look, you couldn't.
No, he's in the FanDuel player pool here.
I don't understand why we don't. So we're just projecting.
Why in the projections he's not there?
0 minutes. If no. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, I guess. But
I have him. I mean, I have him listed as out. I mean, like I haven't projected for no minutes, so I don't know.
That's because they have Drummond in. So once Drummond gets announced out, he'll be projected. So he's a worse play probably than Dedmon. He's definitely a worse play than Dedmon, but he's a pivot at what will probably be lower ownership, even with Drummond out. And again, we know this because it's the first game of the night. But yeah, everybody else, like, I don't really love the rest of it. I think you could make an argument for Bruce Brown just from a usage standpoint at 4.6 being kind of interesting. Obviously Derrick Rose, like, I think is extremely interesting because they're gonna have to run everything through him and Morris. Jackson might get a minutes uptick, and his usage won't be 40% again or 47% like it was last game, but it'll be high. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on it and see who's in the starting lineup. But if Drummond is out, my initial lean would be get Markieff Morris, get some Christian Wood, and then we'll see about Thon Maker depending on if he's starting.
Would you play them both
together? No.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Yes, I would. In a stack, I would. Wait, I would definitely play Morris with any of them.
Okay.
Because he can play alongside any of them. He can play the three.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah,
okay.
And I would play Morris even with Rose. Like, I could get into a heavy game stack of this, probably more on DraftKings than FanDuel. But if there's no Drummond, I think we're looking at stacking this game a lot harder.
Yeah. Boy, it's going to be
total just dropped.
Yeah, this is the problem. This is going to be very interesting. I'm almost definitely. I think I have no choice. I think I'm going to probably play one line because what I'm going to have to do is I'm leaving like literally before any of this happens. I'm leaving probably like an hour and a half before lock, like 5:30. So I'm going to probably just make one lineup with Drummond out, one lineup with Drummond in, you know what I mean? And then just kind of roll that way.
Well, don't like sacrifice it. Like if he's out, you can adjust it on your phone or something.
Yep, but if he's out, then it's probably a whole different build, right? Because if he's out, then I have to consider Wood and all that, right?
You're not going to play Drummond. Oh, you're going to say you're not playing Drummond, though.
No, I'm not playing Drummond at all.
Okay,
I'm just saying that if Drummond's out, it's kind of silly to not play one of Wood or Morris, right? Or even more Rose or something like that. You know, it's
even Bruce Brown, by the way. I know that sounds like a weird play, but this is a good environment for a guy they would need a lot of minutes out of.
So you think when he comes back that's the end of, not the end, but do you think that's the end of Reggie Jackson for a while? I mean, I think Reggie Jackson is going to probably take away Bruce Brown's minutes. No?
He'll take away some. No, but they're going to need all of them. And if Reggie Jackson's still on a minutes limit, that's the only reason. If Reggie Jackson has no minutes limit, you just play Reggie Jackson.
I guess so.
But I'm pretty sure we're going to have the same limit on Reggie Jackson or something similar.
All right. So like anything else, it's like every other NBA slate. We've now at least identified one real important pivot point that we have to watch for again. But the good news is that it is before lock. It is the first game, so you'll know beforehand. And I think that's going to force you to drive your build. You know, I think that, like I said, just mentioned, is that if Drummond is out, I think you're just giving up way too much by at least not taking one of those Detroit guys, whether it be –
Probably right, especially in this matchup. But I just want to point out on FanDuel, I don't think it's necessarily as necessary as it is on DraftKings.
That's interesting.
Because there's a lot of other good plays that fit in, like and like the price on Wood, he could easily bust at that price. And then you've got Thon Maker, but you've got Dedmon at the same price. And Markieff, but I mentioned, what if something happens and Pascal goes off, or just the next highest tier, the 5,200 range goes off, and 5,600 range of the power forward. There's a lot of ways it could play over here that I think that you could get away with it. But I also think it becomes a great game stack. So either way, definitely is interesting. And you could try and run it back with Jaren Jackson. I like a lot at 6,600 over here.
Oh, that's interesting.
You play like a Morris Jackson Maker Rose, or a Morris Jackson Morant Rose, something like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be psyched. You know, I'm going out. I'm going to something tonight, but I'll be back probably. What's it, at 10:30? So I'll be back in time to watch you take down the last one. I'll be there for the second half of that last game.
All right, we'll do the live sweat show, and assuming that I win.
Absolutely. So what do you got? Any last bit of nuggets? Any wisdom? Any ownerships? Anything? What do you got?
So I'm just gonna, the guys who I'm heaviest on are Rubio, Walker, Harden, Bogdanovich, and I don't care if some of these are popular. Jaylen Brown, Will Barton, Aaron Gordon, Kawhi Leonard, Dwayne Dedmon. All things being equal right now, as people go out, again, I'm going to get a lot of Markieff Morris if there's no Drummond tonight. And I actually don't think that everyone's going to go over to Morris. I actually think he's going to be the lower owned one. Maybe not on FanDuel, but certainly overall. And just remember, on FanDuel, it's a very different game than DraftKings, but still play the play that you like, and don't worry too much about running it back. I guess that would be my advice for tonight. It's great where it works, but there are certainly some situations like the Boston situation tonight where you don't necessarily need to run back.
All right, so I'll throw one. Okay, so I'll give you two nuggets. One I kind of alluded to. I don't want to underestimate the spot Oklahoma City's in playing Atlanta. So I think it's possible that a kind of ridiculously overpriced, maybe Shea at 8K, like destroys the slate or something like that. That could be, especially in the shooting guard position where like there's so many better options. Let's put it that way. So that's one thing. And the other thing I'll mention is I will say this more about the Oklahoma City game. The spread is an 11-point spread or whatever it is. And Adams does have kind of an ankle. I think there are multiple routes for Adams playing less minutes. And I probably am going to play Nerlens.
Wow. Okay. That's an interesting one. I haven't gotten there yet unless Adams is completely ruled out, but I guess my final actual nugget, in addition to not needing to run back, if there were games to target stacking, I think you should be targeting the first and the last game on the slate. Houston and Minnesota would be the other option, but it's a little bit tricky for me to figure out how to do it. But
Yeah.
I'm starting to like this Indy Golden State situation.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm in on that one.
And I think that honestly, no ownership. We're talking about guys who are going to produce in a game that are going to have zero ownership. Let's go for it.
Let's go.
All right.
All right. Sounds great. Again, I can't you never know. You never know about Saturday. I'm probably not going to be on there, but you never know. I might sneak one in for Saturday. But otherwise, have a good weekend, and let's get there tonight.
Likewise, you too, buddy. And thanks for being with us, everybody. Give us the like and a thumbs up. We appreciate the love. We will catch up with you guys shortly.
See you later.